It's 29th of the 4th, 2023. It's 4:31 PM. Midnight Charlie Man. I am going to do this video here and now. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I guess I am. I'm going to. In regard of albums, well, good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into my channel. Thank you so much. Midnight Charlie Man, Patrick. And I sometimes always forget to do the intro. Society. In regard to music, in regard to albums, about albums, albums are the weirdest thing ever, and they're very different to movies. I regard them differently. Albums can be they fall into many different categories. They can be wonderful. They can be sad. They can be very sad. They hold beauty. They have an essence about them. They're wonderful. They can be painful. And I think I'm not alone when I say that there's a certain percentage of people out there. There's a certain percentage of people out there who fall into the category where music has an association for them. So if there's a particular album, but yet they can't listen to that album because it reminds them of the time they heard it, and therefore they can't go near it anymore. And I have met people who don't fall into that category. They're like, don't know what you're talking about, mate. I don't understand. Don't know where you're coming from on that one. And I think DJs, it's wonderful when I start filming, because I don't write down a bunch of notes before I start filming. I just think of things to say, and I hadn't thought of this. I had not thought of this. I had not thought of this. I hadn't thought of it. I had not thought of this. Now, let's come back over here. I'll come over here, Charlie. Now, thing is about DJs. I could never be a musical DJ. I could never be a DJ at a radio station, because DJs, no matter what, have to play everything. They have to play all kinds of music. And I've noticed that DJs on the radio get enthusiastic about every song. And there's some songs that when I just thought of Elton John, sad songs say so much. Now, let's do a bit of Zoolander there. I'm not that greatly fond of that movie, by the way. I just thought. Okay, now, here we go. I wonder what the extra noise was. I've got YouTube on play. I didn't realise it was on. Hello, back over here. DJs at radio stations, they have to play everything, no matter what. And sometimes when the song comes on the radio in the car, we instantly switch the channel because they can't handle that song. And the thing is that if you're a DJ, you've got to sneeze. Now, DJs, no matter what, DJs have to have a very particular. I think that DJs have to have a very particular personality because they've got to play everything. And so you'll get DJs that say, "Yep, I love everything, love it all, love everything. I don't have associations with any music, all love it all." I could never ever ever be a radio DJ ever because about 50% of the music I wouldn't play simply because there's a lot of stuff I don't like. Certain songs I absolutely cannot stand to hear, and I'm gonna say it. Oh bloody hell! I'm gonna say it. My least favourite band of all. My least favourite band of all time. I used to listen to them in yesteryear. In yesteryear. It was in 2000. It must have been about. I stopped listening to them somewhere around 2008. U2. Oh my gosh, it took me a lot of effort to say that then. Cannot stand even a beat, a bar, a single note of them. And when they come on in the car, we switch that channel instantly. In back 5 beats is too much. It's like straight away change the channel. And my two other least favourite bands of all time, Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. And we'll add Pearl Jam to that as well. And I remember that in around about 90. When did Alice in Chains first come about? I could probably Google this. Let me have a Google of it just to get. Let me have a Google. Let me Google this. Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains. Come on, let's get a go with this. Come on, let's get a go with this, eh? 1993. Righto then. Because I bought their Unplugged. I remember them coming out. This video was going to be specifically about a certain thing, but I've now added a few points to it. Chains of albums. Adams. Doesn't say Adams. Doesn't change albums. Oh yeah. Yeah. Facelift. Never got into it. I tried to though. The Dirt, not Motley Crue, no. Although I'm on Mick Mars's side, but I digress too much. Never got into Dirt. Say Dirt. 1996, MTV Unplugged came out. I bought the CD, heard it once, never heard it since. Let me just get back to here. Alright, look. So, Alice in Chains, yes. There was the wave of Poison, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, and a Warrant, and everything like else that on MTV. And then suddenly Nirvana came along, Teen Spirit, which I thought was kind of interesting because at the time when these things come along, you don't just. It's only in retrospect that you'll say, yes, it was an Rat Invasion of Your Privacy. Actually, I've been listening to Rat Invasion of Your Privacy the last few nights. It's a brilliant album, and I went back to open up and say, really good fun album, really nostalgic. However, it's only in retrospect that you get that view. When you're in it, when you're experiencing it, you don't have that view. When I'm going to make my point soon about what I was initially going to talk about, but this is interesting anyway. When Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, it was just another song. Okay, what did I feel at the time when it came out? Not like this is a grunge Seattle invasion. That term wasn't around yet. So the first time I saw Smells Like Teen Spirit on MTV, hosted by Richie Wilkins, we also had Rage, which is an Australian nation. Rage is a program, all-night music program in Sydney, but it's also around the rest of the country as far as I'm aware. And that's what we had. And in America, that you have American viewers, you have MTV, and you probably have numerous other music channels as well. Now, uh, the first time I ever heard Smells Like Teen Spirit, it was different. It was different. I thought it was interesting. Like, as the video is starting, I'm like, okay, this is different. This is a little more melancholy. This is not what I'm used to. It's kind of interesting. I'm curious about it. What the hell is this? And of course, I want to like things, so I did want to like it. I think I even bought Nevermind, and I did try to get into it. Nevermind never clicked with me. I liked Heart Shaped Box a lot. That was terrific. Nevermind never clicked with me. Never. And Smells Like Teen Spirit, I kind of grasped it to an extent. It was okay. And then Alice in Chains came in. Never got into Alice in Chains. Tried to, couldn't connect to it. That Unplugged record that came out, I thought it was earlier than 96, but it turns out that was 96. Listened to it once, never got it. I couldn't connect to the sound. And at that point that I was, I think at that point, still very much into GNR. My music was very eclectic at that point. Soundgarden. And the thing is, I would see Soundgarden t-shirts around. My friends were into Soundgarden. Was it Bad Motorfinger? Never got into it. Listened to the CD, wanted to like it, and could never like it. And there was an Australian band called Tumbleweed. Could never. A lot of Australian bands. I do appreciate certain Australian bands. Powderfinger. I don't listen. Look, there's some Australian bands that I appreciate and that I do like. I'm trying to think of who they are. Actually, mainly on the local metal gig scene. In Sydney. I like those bands. Like April Junkies, and used to be Mad Charlie, and you've got Sabire, Sabire, which is a split off from Divine Electric. A lot to go into. Tumbleweed, UMI, never liked Crowded House. During the 90s, there was a few things. During the 90s, there was a couple of songs of Crowded House which I enjoyed. I don't like Crowded House. In Excess. Yeah, I love In Excess. Never connected to Soundgarden anyway. Never connected to it. I thought they were. I did Chris Cornell's voice. Never liked his voice, and I just I've never connected to Soundgarden. Tried to, couldn't do it. Didn't like it. Same thing with Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, two of my least favourite bands ever. Now, and then all of a sudden, slowly, you had David Lee Roth, you had Van Halen, you had Twisted Sister, all was sort of a bit earlier, you had your Slayer, you had your Metallica, and GNR, Motley Crue, all over the MTV screen, right? And Whitesnake, and Deep Purple, and had a Colossal, an Aussie, not so much Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath was played on Rage a lot. MTV played all the latest stuff, so you had like Aussie, and you had all that, and then Anthrax, and then we slowly drifted because Anthrax took on the Seattle sound, but we slowly drifted into grunge territory. Within that term, grunge is alright. Well, from my perspective, yes, the term grunge didn't come. Okay, straight away, no, but yes, I don't know. It was a matter of months or a matter of 6 months, but yes, the term grunge was introduced. It was, but I didn't know that term straight away. All I just knew was suddenly all this new wave of music, and then known as Seattle. It was very different, and it was interesting. Now, in regard, okay, this is what I want to talk about. Albums. and when they come out, are the weirdest thing ever. And when an album, I've seen people on YouTube, like in regard to the latest Aussie album, Patient Number 9, I was going to use this as an example. I really like the album, went through a couple of phases with it. Patient Number 9, Aussie. My throat is acting up. Let me sip some tea, my throat's acting up. It's cold tea, that's disgusting. Yeah. The comments, like for instance, Patient Number 9, the comments in the comment section, some of the comments say, instant classic, this album is instant classic, this album is a masterpiece. And my whole point today is that when an album comes out, as soon as an album comes out, then you have a few listens to the album. It cannot be, when an album is released, it cannot be termed or classified as a masterpiece or a classic album. It hasn't gone through the period and length of time necessary to be able to associate it or identify it as a classic album. So an album comes out, and then like a week later, after 3 listens or 4 listens, someone says, this is a classic, this is an instant classic. No. It has to stand the test of time. Maybe, like, for instance, okay, 2 things I want to say at once. When Patient Number 9, when the first couple of songs were released, I thought they were interesting. Thought they were interesting, a little bit weird, interesting. And then the album was released, and I listened through the album, and it had my attention. A weird experience, listening to the songs, taking them when I could. I thought, okay, it's interesting. It's the only word I can find to use, okay? And I thought, alright, okay. And so, I thought, I was attempting to capture the essence of the album, the character of it, and enjoying it, taking it in. And so, I think it was about 4. My throat's a bit groggy. I think it was about. I'm gonna have to make a cup of tea soon. If only that was hot. Now, about 4 listens in, I had about 4 listens to it, and I enjoyed it. Really started to enjoy it, and then I went off it for a few months. I just went totally off it, totally off it. And then 2 weeks ago, I went back to it after I haven't heard it for about 3 or 4 months, and I went back to it. I just suddenly went back to it. I want to know why I went back to it. Because of my total disdain for 72 seasons. My total disdain for all. I'm going to listen to the Aussie. I'm going to listen to Patient Number 9. Patient Number 9. And I'm going to do a review for it. I'm going to talk about it, partially talking about it here. Do I think Patient Number 9 is a masterpiece? I don't think it can be called a masterpiece at this point. Albums can't be called masterpieces as soon as they come out. I think it's a terrific album. I think it's a very good album. I think it's a very, very interesting album, very engaging and captivating. It reminds, and I've heard it about 10 to 15 times now, and I've heard it about 10 to 15 times during the last week or so. It reminds me of Bark at the Moon. It reminds me of, I was about to say Lightning Strikes. It reminds me of The Ultimate Sin, and it reminds me a little bit of No Rest for the Wicked. That's what it kind of reminds me of. It can't be called a classic album yet. It hasn't had that period. It hasn't had that period of time. But it is a terrific album. It's a fantastic album. It is. But it cannot be referred to as a masterpiece or a classic album. Period of time has to go by. But okay, so You can only call an album a classic album after a decade has gone by. A decade goes by, 15 years goes by. In fact, that's the best time. This is exactly what I wanted to say. This is what I was working up to. After a period of 10 to 15 years, that's when you can call an album classic. That's when you can you can say that's a masterpiece, that's a classic, that's now a classic album. And the best time to actually listen to it's a weird world. It's a weird world. The best time to listen to an album, the best time to go back to an album is about a decade later. 5 years later, generally a decade later, because there's so many albums out there. And that's when it can be appreciated. Although when an album comes out, you might indulge in it for a while, explore it for a while, you go on a journey with it for a while, you do that, you embrace it, and you connect to it, and you attach your own, you go on experiences with that album, you develop experiences with it, and it becomes it becomes a part of your life. You make a connection to it. In a sense, it becomes part of you. And so, birds sing for the treetops. I just reminded myself one of my previous videos from 2 years ago. Now, the best time to listen to the best time for an album to listen to an album. I mean, even if you hear the album straight away when it gets released, even if you embrace it straight away because you really won't like it, it's still weird experience getting used to those songs and them becoming a part of culture. The best time to listen to an album and get to know an album is about a decade after it's come out. About a decade later, 15 years later. Hello, time for me to interject here. I'm putting this through a shortcut at the moment. Oh, line on. I'm putting this through a shortcut at the moment. And I said 10 years. Well, perhaps it is not a contradiction, but people listen to albums at all different times. And 3 to 5 years later, sometimes I might go back to an album 3 to 5 years later, I'm saying, as 10 years passes, and you get a different idea of the album, but maybe 3 to 5 years might pass. I might go back to albums periodically, like every 6 months or so, or a year. But you get to that 3 to 5 year mark, and that's when you can get a different perspective on it. So yes, the 10-year mark, but I just wanted to add in here that it could be the 3 to 5 year mark. I mean, I remember when I first heard Appetite, I was about 18 at the time, and I embraced that. I embraced it straight away, actually. I embraced it and connected to it straight away, and then stayed with it for a very, very, very long time. And it was a different time back then. I remember taping GNR Live at the Ritz, 88. I've got it on VHS. I think I've spoken about this before. I have, but I just want to throw this in here. I'm going to slice it in now. Okay. Go back to it and you think, oh, okay, I get it now. I get this now. I can connect to it in a better way now. I can embrace it more now. Like, for instance, I listen to Open Up and Say Ah. I went back to that album. I had not heard that album since the 90s. When my memory's going. Memory. I hadn't listened to the album for many, many years, and I went back to it the other night. I thought it was terrific. Very sort of reminded me of the time when it came out. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing, isn't it? Really. You go back to an album a decade later or 15 years later, and it reminds you of that time. Because when an album is released, it doesn't remind you of anything. There's nothing there. That's why it's a totally weird experience. It's like what's going on here? I don't understand any of this. And it's like, and if the band has previous albums, which they usually do, you tend to end up comparing it to the band's previous albums. But Open Up and Say nostalgic. Yeah, really good. It was nice to hear it. It took me back to the late 80s and very early 90s. Excuse me. It took me back to the late 80s and very early 90s. And also, I've been watching Len Ender's videos. They helped me greatly the other day. They helped me greatly. I wanted to go back in time to the late 80s. So albums, when they're first released, it's not a bad thing. I mean, you release an album, right? It's not a bad thing. It's just that when they come out, there's no foundation there, and it takes a while for it to get the foundation. And the flip side of this is that the band has been probably working on these songs for a couple of years, so they know the album well. They know the album well. They release it. They release the album. We don't know any of it, but they're quite familiar with those songs now. They feel very passionate about those songs. They could have been working on those songs for 2 or 3 years. I mean, they could have been working on them for 2 or 3 years. I was going to say something I forgot. Oh, I was going to say something I forgot. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Right. Because a lot of new music that isn't that great, should new bands exist? Should young people be picking up instruments and even recording new music? Because really, the world already has all the music necessary. All the music that will ever need is already been recorded. So should young bands, should young people even pick up instruments and put bands together and do new music? Of course they should. I was wondering where I was going with that. Of course they should. They're going to anyway, and of course they should. Of course they should. Yeah. Even though all the best music's already been recorded, still, of course they should. It's inevitable. It's a part of nature. They're going to do it anyway, and they should do it, because they get influenced by young people being influenced by music. So yes, new bands are good. That I'm ever going to explore much of them, probably I do maybe 10% of the time. I go out into the local Sydney gig scene and I see new bands perform and they're okay. And in fact, the other week, well, look, previous week I went and saw a band. They were young and I'd been invited to it, and they were young and they were okay. They had passion. Yes, new bands, new music. That I'm ever going to connect to it, don't. Not much, not greatly. But their friends will. Their friends will. And is some of that going to be good music? Yeah. Yes, some of that will be good music. Is all of it going to be good? No. Will some of it be good? Yes. Is it necessary? Actually, it is necessary. Yes. Has all the best music already been made? Yes, but still great music. Still great music to follow. Still great music to be made. Yes, because it's part of life and experience and part of expression. People expressing themselves through music and putting a band together and writing songs. And it's inevitable and a part of nature and the human race to, as Madonna said, express yourself. And as Elton John says at the beginning of his concert, comes up on the thing on the monitor, says Elton John wishes everyone to feel pleased. He encourages people to get up and dance to his music while he's performing and to express themselves. And as Madonna said, express yourself. I might as well throw this in. Actually, I couldn't read that properly without my goggles on. Is rock and roll dead? No, of course it's not. But people say rock and roll is dead. Well, I've still got my CDs. I still want to listen to Black Sabbath and Ozzy every other day. And all everybody else's CDs haven't suddenly gone missing or been taken away. No, it's rock and roll is just a philosophical point of view of a certain percentage of society. That's all it is. I'm going to pause this because I don't want to run out of memory. I just have to stop this now. I'll probably continue talking. I thought I was only going to talk for 10 minutes. It's been longer. I've got to stop it before it runs out of... It goes for 30 minutes, it conks out. Okay. Alright. I'll probably continue this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Okay. Leo gets Lethal Weapon 3. Part 2. Blue Crush. Okay, so while I was impatiently waiting for my phone to, not my phone, I was impatiently waiting for my phone to recharge. I was downloading the first section and I made a new cup of tea. With lemon. Now, I thought of all these things to say, and first up, one thing is AC/DC's Power Up, which came out in 2020, I believe. Power Up came in 2020. Will it ever be a classic album? No, doesn't need to be a classic album. Will it ever be considered to be a classic album? I don't think so. Will it ever be ingrained in... Are people listening to it? Some are. The AC/DC back catalogue is so classic and so prominent that Power Up doesn't need to be considered. It's more so like a tribute to Malcolm Young. Power Up, I don't think I've heard it twice all the way through. People just want the back catalogue. People just want Back in Black. People just want Highway to Hell and Dirty Deeds, right? And Fly on the Wall and Who Made Who, and that's what they want. And Let There Be Rock, and Blow Up Your Video, and what else is there? Blow Up Your Video, and you know, very underrated album is The Razor's Edge. Razor's Edge is a... I laugh at the ironies, at the contrasts, and that's what it is with AC/DC. Actually, is two things. Razor's Edge. The problem with Razor's Edge is Thunderstruck was so huge that it dwarfed the rest of the album, and the rest of the album is actually quite good. It's a really good album. Fly on the Wall, very underrated album. Fly on the Wall, great album. I suppose you need the contrast. And the contrast is that Power Up is a good album. Will it ever be a classic album? No, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be recognised. It is what it is. It sits at the back end. It sits at the end of the catalogue. I mean, at this end of the catalogue, right? Will people ever go to it? Yes, but they don't need to, because the back catalogue is so prominent and classic, and that's where it's... The back catalogue is the only place that people will ever want to be. People only want the Highway to Hells and the Back in Blacks and the Dirty Deeds and the Fly on the Walls and the Who Made Who. Oh, speaking of which, Who Made Who? Speaking of which, let me just show you. I scored this I got this from Big W about a month ago. I got this from Big W a month ago. Look, see, this is what people want. Is it necessary? Is it an insult to AC/DC? Is it an insult to AC/DC if people never hear Power Up? No, it might as well not even exist. Rock or Bust might as well not even exist. I've heard a little bit of Rock or Bust. Black Ice. Black Ice is a fantastic album. It's a really good album and ignored by a lot of people. But the whole Black Ice is a fantastic album. But however, it's the passing of time which is important for an album. I was going to say the test of time, the passing of time. And over the passing of time is when albums become more significant. they become much more significant, and they take on a different flavour. They take on a character of their own. They have a particular smell about them, a particular essence about them, and they become quite important over a period. When they come out, no, not at all, not at all. And for instance, when Anthrax, there's going to be the new Anthrax album should have just come out during COVID, at the beginning of it, tea time. Okay, so the new Anthrax album, not important. Does anyone need to listen to it? No. Was For All Kings important? No. Was worship music important? No. Well, I don't think it was. Stadia Euphoria, yes. Among the Living, the first side. I don't like the second half of the album, but and the albums that are coming out now, in 20 years' time, or 10 years' time, will they be considered classic? At that point, they could be reassessed. At that point, you could reassess them. But just say an album comes out now, right? An album comes out, and you listen to it over and over again, and you fall in love with it. You make a deep connection to it. That's a terrific thing, and that's a terrific thing, and that's a terrific thing. I won't say that 20 times more. Lana Del Rey. There's an ocean under. There's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard. I listened to that album. I didn't even know it had come out. It came out a few months ago. Didn't even know. I looked her up the other day. I was so pissed off with 72 Seasons. I haven't heard 72 Seasons. I only heard 4 songs of it. I talked about all that in the other video. Please go watch that to find out what I said about it. 72 Seasons, no, I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I've heard the 4 tracks of it. They're awful, except that Darkness Out of Sun was mildly interesting. The chorus part was, and I was also pissed off with the 72 Seasons. I wanted something else. I went over to Lana Del Rey, and there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard. I listened to the album twice in one night. It was very smooth sailing. There's an interlude in the middle which is a little bit intense. Really, I've always liked Lana Del Rey. I love Lana Del Rey. I think she's terrific. Melancholy and an olden vibe to her. Sexiness in there. But that album, all the way through, twice. Okay. I'm going to throw this in here. I'm gonna put this in here. I had an experience. Okay, so I bought this Ozzy Osbourne t-shirt off eBay. I bought the Ultimate Sin t-shirt. It arrived the other day. I was very impressed by it. So what I do is I walked down to Canterbury Woolworths, and the traffic was very heavy. And I walked down there, and I said to myself, Pat, no one's going to blink an eyelid at the t-shirt. No one around here knows. Better off walking through Newtown. Because sometimes like a bit of acknowledgement on things, a little bit of acknowledgement. I think if I wear this, someone's gonna see it. Someone's gonna say, hey. Passed a few people, didn't blink an eyelid. I'm like, Pat, what were you expecting? I get onto New Canterbury Road. I'm walking down, and the traffic was really, really heavy. It was so heavy that I couldn't cross the road I usually cross. And all of a sudden, from this car, I hear this guitar solo. I'm like, is that Yinvei? Is it from Yinvei? I get to the car, he's got his window down, and I looked in, and I walked down. I was walking faster than the traffic, so the traffic's going along, and he passes me, and I went, yeah. He went, yeah. And then the traffic passed me, and I walked down again, because the traffic moved down, and I walked past again, and I went, and he went, Ozzy! And he went, Ozzy, yeah. And we did this a few times. It was a moment. It was good. And then I had this P plate that passed me as I got down to the Aldi, and there was about 3 women in the car, and they meowed at me. They meowed at me. They meowed, and then there was these 2 huge guys. I think they were kind of sort of almost Maori guys, 2 huge guys, and they looked at the car, the women who meowed, and they were like, oh, "What's all that about?" And I thought, and I like to prod a bit sometimes. I like to prod, and I said, "Oh, actually." Actually, they saw it from up there. They're actually out meowing at me because they saw it from up there. I said, "They're meowing at you." They said, "They're meowing at you." And I said, "They were meowing at me." And they went, ugh. And as we crossed the road, I said, "They were meowing at me." And I said, everyone meows at me. I said, everyone meows at me because I'm special. And they went, "Yeah, right, yeah, mate." They went, "Yeah, yeah." They went, "Yeah, okay." They went, They went, "All right, mate." Yeah. They went, and I said, "Because I'm special." And they went, they went, "Yeah, okay, mate." Meow. So I went to Woolworths and I passed a few people, and I got my groceries, and I'm passing people, and they're just like looking at me like, "Pat, we didn't get that around here." And there was a girl on the corner where Canterbury Station is, and she looks at me, she looks at my T-skirt, and she's like, and then she just looks away. I'm like, what are you expecting, Pat? Like, what are you expecting around here? Apart from that one guy in his car, and I'm like, no one has any idea what that is. No one has any clue. No one has the first clue what your T-shirt is, Pat. I said, if you turn up to a gig with it, I'd probably say, yeah, I don't know. Not that I was worried to get any attention or anything like that. No. So, yes, albums only become classics through the passage of time, and not otherwise. Oh, and the new Megadeth album which came out last year, at first I didn't like it at all. First I couldn't stand it, The Sick, the Dying and the Dead. Yeah. I couldn't stand it at first, and I left it alone for about a month and went back to it. I haven't heard it in a while, but it's entertaining you for 12 minutes now. Look, this is a good video. Len Enders. Look, Len Enders. See? Len Enders. Len Enders. He helped me the other day. He's really good. Len Enders is really good. When I go back to the late 80s, watch Len Enders. Budgie Power Supply, very good album. Budgie Power Supply, very good album. And there are like bits and pieces of Ordinary Band, Ozzy Osbourne's Ordinary Macabre. I don't like the title. I don't like the title of the album. I don't like the title of the album because Ozzy Osbourne's not ordinary. I don't even like that. Ordinary. It's almost a dreadful word. The title track, Ordinary Man. I get what it's supposed to be about, but I don't like the title track. The other songs on the album are interesting, except for that last one. I actually got to that last one the other night. Some sort of rap guy or something. He worked. Getting through the album, you get to the last song. It's like, what? Wonder if I'll edit any of this. So, the Megadeth album. I heard it a while back. I was listening to it numerous times in a row. Great album. Is it a classic? No. Is it a masterpiece? No. Because albums can't be considered masterpieces when they come out, only after the certain amount of time has passed, like the period of like 10 years or so. When Master of Puppets came out in 1986 and I bought it on vinyl in 1986, was it a masterpiece then? No, it was just an album that I greatly enjoyed. Master of Puppets wasn't considered a masterpiece in probably the Black Days, maybe the Black Days, okay, alright, maybe the Black Days. And especially when Load and Reload came out, yeah, you had a bit of contrast and perspective at that point. It's all about contrast and perspective. So that is about classic albums. That's what I've got to say about classic albums. No, that's what I've got to say about classic albums and their impact on, well, the passage of time, the impact on people. Oh, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. It's all emotional. It's all emotional. Music is emotional. It's how it makes you feel. It's all about emotions and the emotions that it provokes within you. And then you relate to and music is with you during the different experiences of your life and everyday experiences and over time that's connections to your memories and those albums and songs mean something then because they're connected to you and they become something profound and it's profound and meaningful. Oh, the 80s are so good, aren't they? 1980s music and Starship and the Eurythmics and Forever in Electric Dreams. Always be together, always be together, together in electric dreams. I think I got that in key. I'm usually out of note. I'm usually tone deaf. I think I've got that one good. Always be together, together, for it seems. Always be together, together in electric dreams. Hey, I think I did well. Michelle usually says, don't sing, please don't sing. Everyone has their limitations. So, in my feature script, perhaps I won't sing. My character won't sing. Perhaps not. I've been going for 17 minutes on this. And I think that I conveyed everything that I intended to say. Just about classic albums. What makes an album classic? What makes a masterpiece? It is a psychological thing, it is a philosophical thing. It's all about time, the passage of time, and people's memories. Because an album has to have that time to have an impact and be a part of people's memories over the years. Yes. 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 Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I just wanted to say those few things today. I just thought I'd say those few things. I thought, yeah, I want to talk about that. It kind of been on my mind a little bit. So thank you so much for watching. Comment in the section. I always forget to say this. Comment in the section below. And if you do, and if you like my content, and if you like this video, please consider, because I always forget to say this part, please, because I thought I gotta wait till I get to 300 plus videos before I can even talk about this stuff, before I even mention it. So if you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. Please consider subscribing to my excellent channel. And please consider subscribing. Please like this. If you have enjoyed this video, please click like. It'll help my algorithm. It'll help my algorithm. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. And comments in the section below. Put your thoughts in the section below. Very quite interested to know what you think. And yes, so alright then, thank you.